Steve Alexander, he's been in the natural health practitioner since 1992 and specializing in preventative health, weight loss and detoxification, effective nutrition and anti-aging strategies. So Steve, we've heard you many times in the past, but I understand that you have retired on Magnetic Island, which is amazing. Very jealous. But Steve and his partner Debbie, they owned the Revival Clinic in Noosa, which they established in 2003, and he's been working with Nu Skin since 2006, and he's achieved the Blue Diamond status since 2007. In 2021 he sold his house and his business and retired to Magnetic Island. So he does little work with Nu Skin these days, because you know he loves his golf 3 times a week and enjoying his new life on Magnetic Island. But Steve's going to be sharing about our new product Meta. So this is a product that's just launched in Australia, and it's an incredible product, and Steve's going to share more about the science. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you very much for the welcome. And yeah, here I am on this tropical island, and I had my camera all set up, or my computer, to show beautiful palm trees behind us and the phenomenal setting that we live in. But it's pissing down. We've had no rain. You guys have had all the rain, and we normally get the rain up here, and we've had absolutely zero. We haven't looked like a cyclone yet, and the dams are really low. So I'm kind of glad that there is some rain, although my tee-off time is 2 hours from now, and I don't want that to be interfered with. So let's talk a little bit about Meta. It's a really great meeting you guys are having, and it's fantastic to see this quality online, because I'm an old dinosaur. We used to go to monthly meetings and all that sort of thing. But if I can just talk about Meta, and probably more importantly, the background reasons why you should be at least considering Meta. I know a lot of people are reluctant to talk about nutritionals because of the complexity. They don't know the biochemistry and they don't understand the ingredients and all that sort of garbage. But Meta is not that sort of product. But let's look at the background of what it does, because it's about metabolic health. And most people, when you say the word metabolism, they say, oh, it's how fast you burn fat because it's related to weight loss. But your actual metabolic system, and it's pretty much everywhere from your mouth to your bum, and some other parts of your body, but your metabolic system has 3 basic functions. The first is to convert food into energy, and that comes out through the mitochondria primarily in the cells. That's our body energy. The second thing the metabolic system does is breaks the food down into usable components like fats, enzymes, proteins, specific molecules that the body needs to run itself. And those building blocks then normally get sent through to the liver, which is the chemical factory in the body, and made into all of the millions and millions of different compounds and components that we need to run our body. And the third major function of the metabolic system is to remove metabolic waste, because if we don't do that effectively, we start to clog up our cells and they get toxic, and then we start to get sick and so on. So they're the 3 basic functions of the metabolic system. And where are they? Primarily in the gastrointestinal tract, as I said, from your mouth to your bum, and the organs that are associated with it, but it's also muscle tissue and the microbiome. And most people have heard of the microbiome, and it's trillions and trillions of bacteria that reside on our skin, even if we use a cleanser, in our mouth, in our nose, every orifice of our body, and they are predominantly concentrated in the large intestine. Some researchers say that the microbiome probably weighs between 1 and 2 kilos on our body. We just think of ourselves as one magnificent individual, but we're really trillions and trillions and trillions of components of an ecosystem that make up us, and they all cooperate together. The microbiome is extremely important because it helps regulate the digestive process. It also communicates with the brain, and it's heavily involved with our mood, release of serotonin, and all these types of things that make us feel better. So there's a lot of study being done on the microbiome. It was unheard of 20 years ago, and now people are starting to learn about it, but it is incredibly important. So the takeaway from the background is that your metabolic health influences the likelihood of you having degenerative disease. You know, we've got epidemics, forget little viruses that are running around, but we've got epidemics of cancer, we've got epidemics of heart disease, we've got epidemics of diabetes, and they are devastating a lot of people in our society. And we really don't want these things. So when you look at how Meta can help, we'll just talk about the digestion system, because the old German doctors of the 1940s and 50s did a lot of innovation. And one of the things they said is death begins in the colon, which sounds kind of weird, but I think it's probably largely right, because we have digested food going through our system and gets broken down. And by the time it gets to the colon, it's usually fairly toxic. And that is the source of toxins that can be distributed through the body if the colon's not operating properly. And that is very significant. A lot of people with major autoimmune disease, they'll get diagnosed with a disease, the doctor will tell them about, and it'll be treated a certain way with success or not, and so on. But the fact of life is that quite often autoimmune diseases are a result of the body attacking itself, which is the result of toxins in the cells, and those toxins often come through our large intestine, through the barrier that they're not supposed to penetrate. So, you know, when any of the digested material stays too long in our colon, we have potential problems. And, you know, that's why I've always said to people, if you're constipated, fix it. If you're not doing number twos once a day easily, you are constipated, and you need to fix it, because when the digested toxic material is in your colon for too long, it can leak through the walls and poison you. And a lot of people are getting sick by poisoning themselves because they're not getting the flow through their digestive system as they should. And there's a tremendous correlation between bowel cancer and chronic constipation. So, you know, basically get it fixed if it's not right. The other big thing is type 2 diabetes, which is rampant in our society. And type 2 diabetes is fundamentally due to us overdosing ourselves with sugar and white flour. And white flour becomes sugar by one quick process in the body. So we are flooding ourselves with refined carbohydrates, predominantly sugar and wheat. And that causes an overload because the body handles the sugars with insulin, and it's produced in the pancreas. But when we overwhelm ourselves and just constantly have too much sugar in our body, we develop problems in the pancreas, and then the islets of Langerhans, which produce the insulin, they shut down, and our doctor tells us our blood sugar's gone up and we've got diabetes, and usually the story doesn't get much better. Type 2 diabetes is almost totally reversible if you go in the first 3 months and just stop eating sugar, stop eating white flour, do an hour's exercise a day, and you'll probably reverse your type 2 diabetes. But virtually no one's prepared to do that. So they just go through the process, then they become insulin dependent, then they start cutting bits off them, and they develop cardiovascular disease. And it's a very, very ugly picture. And the thing is that the combination of cardiovascular disease and diabetes are really prominent in people with dementia. So if you don't want to lose your marbles as you get older, avoid getting cardiovascular disease, avoid getting diabetes, and you're in with a much better chance than someone who hasn't done that. So, you know, the key to all these degenerative disease, whether it's cancer, heart disease, you know, whatever, is not to get it in the first place, because by the time we get diagnosed, it's often very, very challenging to improve it, and often it's too late. So the key is to improve your metabolic health so as you reduce the chances of these degenerative diseases quite dramatically. Now, you go to a doctor and say, how do I improve my metabolic health? Or any scientist, pretty much, and they will say, eat better, exercise, and lose weight if you're overweight. Now, how's that working out for us? Not great as a society. we have at least 80% of our society fat, sedentary, and eating poorly. So their metabolic health is down the toilet. And that is a big part of why we're experiencing all these health issues. You know, do you know a single person that doesn't understand they should exercise, eat better, and exercise, eat better, and what was the third one? Lose weight. So everyone knows that, but no one does it, or very few people do it. And so that's what I find exciting about our Meta, because you don't have to understand all these processes that I've just touched on. What this enables you to do, and it's scientifically validated, it enables you to have the metabolic health of a slim, fit person who eats well without doing all the hard work. That sounds contrary to what is common sense, and it is. People should be doing these things, but they're bloody well not. So the next best thing is to get the same effect without them doing it. And once they start to feel better, they might be more inclined to start doing a bit more exercise, lose a bit of weight, and eat a little bit better, make some better choices at the table. So I think it's a sensational product. And you know, from a pure commercial point of view, people are bloody lazy. They don't want to do anything themselves. You know, how many people have bought galvanic spas and not used them? Classic. Whereas if you can say, here, do you want to eat better, lose some weight, exercise regularly, or would you rather take a couple of pills a day and get the same result? It's a little bit cynical, but it is a fact. And, you know, it's really important to understand this. If you're going to talk to people about Meta, that's all you really have to know. All the information you'll ever need is in that video that Mark Bartlett did a few months ago. It's on YouTube. I would suggest, if you're considering incorporating Meta into your business, that you go and get that video and listen to it about 5 or 6 times. You'll get so much out of it every single time. It's not technically complex, but it gives all the reasons. You know, and what the other thing that's really impressive about Meta is, on release of the product, there are 5 peer-reviewed studies in journals. And that's kind of a big deal, because you look at any nutritional product and go and look at the science behind it, and they will quote studies about the various ingredients. And they'll say, well, we've got these studies on vitamin C and these studies on green tea, blah, blah, blah. But virtually none of them have had the expertise or the money to do clinical trials on the actual product. And there are 5 of them, and they're all listed on the product information page. And I commend them to you to have a read of. Just read the abstracts. That's all you need to do. But you'll be comfortable knowing that there's 5 studies on this one product prior to it being released. And that's, to me, unheard of. Now, if you look at things, the specifics that Mark Bartlett goes into, I touched on the plasma endotoxins, which is the poisons that get through the wall of the colon to poison you. And you know, there's studies there to show that that is significantly reduced just by taking 2 purple pills a day. Glucose metabolism, you know, that is how your body handles the sugar in the blood and in other places. That's improved by Meta, and it's scientifically proven. Also fatty liver. Now, you know, if someone came to me with, if I was still working, seeing people, and they had, you know, leaky gut, glucose metabolism was high, or they had fatty liver, I'd say, look, you're up for 6 to 12 months hard work. And you're going to have to make some serious lifestyle changes, and you're going to have to work at this to get this back in order. But now they can fix all 3 just by taking 2 purple pills a day. And that is incredibly significant. The other thing that I found impressive, and you'll see it a couple of times in Mark Bartlett's video, is when we eat, you know, our packet of Tim Tams or whatever, when you eat a heavy sugar meal or whatever, your blood sugar spikes. if people aren't familiar with diabetes and things like that, they don't have much appreciation. But you eat a half a packet of Tim Tams, and sometimes in the next hour, if you were taking blood, your blood sugar would go berserk. And then at some stage, if you're fairly healthy, it will settle back down to a normal level. What Meta does is increases that resilience, so you get back down to where you should be much, much faster. And that means that your body's in that stressed state for a much lesser time, and that also is very significant. Probably the easiest way, just expanding on what Mark says in the video, is just say to people, what do you do in your car when the warning lights go on your dashboard? And they say, well, if it's just a minor one, like a bit of tire pressure or whatever, I'll get to it. If it's temperature's high or oil pressure's low, probably stop the car and do something fairly urgent and get some help. Well, all the signs of metabolic health, which Mark goes into, are like warning lights on the dashboard of your car. And you're the only mechanic. You're the only one looking after the thing. And to be able to recognize these things and see that Meta will help all of them in a fairly short period of time is pretty impressive. So I really like Meta from a business perspective, because if people understand why they're actually buying it, if they're not, it's not because of your charisma and good looks and you say, take these purple pills, and they say, all right, I will. But if they really understand why they're buying that particular product and understand what it does for them, they will probably stay on it for a heck of a long time. And obviously you're servicing all the rest of it. So not only is it quite an impressive individual product, it's probably one of the best I've seen. And certainly, as I said, I've never seen any product anywhere, anytime. I have 5 studies publishing it. But it's also very, very good business if you want to develop that side of your business. I think probably in a perfect world, they should be taking LifePak as a base level, and then this. But the more people you can get to take Meta in the long term, the bigger the service you will be to them. And that's what we're all about. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope that's given you something to think about and see what you reckon. Bye.